There's just something about the word entrepreneur or business owner that sounds cool. It's something that so many people dream of becoming, yet hardly anybody takes that leap. Today we're going to talk with Gary Beaudette, founder and president of Beaudette Consulting, and ask him why he left the stability and comfort of climbing the corporate ladder, and how it ain't easy taking that leap, but it's worth it. Here we go. Hey everyone, I've got a very special guest today. I have Gary Beaudette here he's the president and founder of Beaudette Consulting. Hey Gary, thanks for being on here, and I would just love for you to just take a couple minutes to introduce yourself and tell us about the great things you're doing out there in the world today.
Hi, Dustin. Thanks for having me on. This is exciting that we're doing this podcast. So, I own and run Beaudette Consulting, and we're small. There's about 5 of us, family-owned consulting business in Northern California, and we do consulting for large organizations. We do process improvement. We do continuous improvement, lean manufacturing, and a lot of operational excellence. We also do some training and curriculum development. We work with companies like E&J Gallo Winery, Blue Diamond. We also work in the education systems. I work with Brandman University, which is now UMass. I'll teach some classes, and we just do a bunch of different things. We solve problems.
So just like you work with a lot of small companies, basically. Yeah, right. That's awesome. I mean, I think that, the companies that you work with, wow, Gallo is one of the largest wineries in the world. So you've done some great work. I guess that kind of leads to the first question there is, how'd you get started? How'd you get into this process to where you are now working with Fortune 500, huge companies? How'd you kind of get into this space?
So I was really lucky to work for a company called Parker Hannifin. They're a Fortune 100 company. And I I started there as an intern when I was going to school. And really what opened up my eyes to this whole other world of problem solving was there's a job opening for lean manufacturer. And it was like lean facilitator. I didn't know what the heck that was, but I know I needed insurance, and I had to get a full-time thing and not be an intern. So this was probably 15 years ago. I got that job as a lean facilitator. I learned about operational excellence, lean manufacturing, went into training and HR. So that's really where I learned how to implement lean manufacturing processes. Then I started getting promoted. I started traveling all over the United States. Parker Hannifin is about 80,000 employees. Wow. What they do is they manufacture car parts, specifically filters. So I would go across the United States and help implement high performance teams and lean manufacturing. So gathering all that experience, I thought, hey, why not keep it local? And I felt like I was helping this large organization get even larger. And this Fortune 100 company where I'm almost like, all right, could I help the companies that at least headquartered in my area? And how could I just really help the companies around me grow? So, and not travel as much I had a young family about 7 years ago, and they're all growing. So I travel less, but it's good.
So, just for those people who don't know, what type of industry, what types of products and services does Parker, what do they do in the market today?
So they manufacture filters is one, hydraulics. So they produce products. So a lot of engineering goes into it, but hydraulics, they work in aerospace. So they make a lot of parts that help things move. So
I think it's one of those companies that just a lot of people don't realize just how wide of a scope that they really do provide as far as the service and products go. It's on so many different types of machinery and products that we use every day, frankly. So that's quite fantastic. So you ended up kind of in that training space around lean, and so of course you got to travel. I got to do some training there, and I guess is that kind of where you kind of fell in love with I guess kind of like that process of working with people and growing people, but then not just people, but the processes for the organizations. Is that kind of where that developed, or has that kind of always been your thing?
So I think it was helping someone and just like watching their smile on their face. So like just getting that instant feedback that what you're doing, your job is really helping someone. So that's why I started off in training was, I just remember seeing someone who couldn't quite get something, and then I approach it a certain way and they're able to get it now. And then just that look, imagine when you helped your kids first tie their shoes and when they did it on themselves that first time, like that feeling. So having that in industry, so just trying to help people. So I know that certain processes will genuinely make the work easier for people. Once I realize that, I go around and make work easier, that safety improves, quality improves, productivity improves, profitability improves, and morale improves because I'm making things easier for employees. So just that's a rush to go in and make things easier and have everyone smile and be happy about it. So
that's great. I mean, so you are definitely, working on the front lines. Like I said, you're working directly with individuals. And I love that you pointed out, I mean, like when things connect, when dots start connecting and people see their value in an organization, especially one that's 80,000 people. I mean, if it's five, so like you said, you have 5 people at your business now, it's a lot easier to see the impact. It's easier in an organization like that to be lost, to feel like your work is going almost nowhere sometimes, right? And so you're in this, you're climbing through the ranks in the corporate ladder, you're with a big company, and then you do something that is frankly kind of crazy. Right? I mean, you decide that I'm going to branch out on my own. Tell me about like that thought process. I mean, where was it? Was it just overnight? Was it something that just kind of began to build? I mean, how does that process go about?
I think it's something I always wanted to do. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into until I actually did it, where I had all these ideas and I wanted to have the freedom to be able to implement my own ideas. I think after getting my MBA, that really set things off as far as, all right, I have my degree. I supposedly know a lot about business, but I think some of the feedback and the things that I was trying when I was working for Parker Hannifin, when I was going around to different site locations and getting these results, and they'd give me the freedom to customize content and deliver it in a certain way and go out and try things my own way. And I was getting results. I was like, I think I have something here. Now the conversation with my wife, she kind of like what you were saying, she's like, so I told her, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to start my own business. So I said, let me do a trial first. So I would go into work early at Parker Hannifin, 5 a.m. to 1:30. And then I would get consulting gigs after that. So from 2 to 6. So I would chip away at it, looking for clients, doing small projects. So I was basically working 2 jobs, my full-time job at Parker Hannifin and consulting on the side until I was able to get enough business where we're comfortable. So when that day came, I told my wife, I'm like, all right, here's how it's going to work. She's like, I trust you 100% and I love you. And I know you're going to do a great job. I don't feel like I'd be a good wife if I didn't ask the question, like, are you sure? There's no risk, like, because you are leaving a Fortune 100 company. You have a great job there and insurance and everything. And I said, yeah. She's like, okay, I just need to hear that. All right, let's rock and roll. So,
so there's definitely hesitation on your wife's side. I guess for you as well. I mean, because like I said, this is not easier. I mean, this ain't easier. I mean, so you are going through this thought process. I mean, when you decided to take that leap, I mean, was it just kind of burn the boats? We're jumping in full on it, or like I said, I know you're kind of tiptoeing into it for a little bit there, but I mean, like, was it just kind of at one point you said, hey, I just got to burn the boats. I'm doing this full time. I'm jumping in. It's going to work and it has to work.
So I'm probably a little less exciting than others, but I was very strategic about it. I had certain goals that I had to hit and that I just made myself where I could fill up enough hours and that I was making enough for a month. So I got a few contracts that guaranteed a certain amount in certain hours. And once I had that, then I felt better. So I needed something kind of in contract that I knew everyone in my family would be okay.
Now, do you feel? I mean, because I think entrepreneurship is one of those things. I mean, number one, it's sexy. Everybody wants to be their own boss and everything. And one thing I've really loved about is you've always been very creative. I mean, You're in a band. You did music, and you actually wrote a kid's book like over a weekend, which is awesome. You know, Hank Grimes, the kid who couldn't rhyme. It's a fantastic book. Highly recommend it to it. And I'll put the link down on Amazon to it. My kids love it. So I mean, you've always been very creative, and I think that's really neat to hear that the creativity was there, but there's also a strategic approach to it. There was thoughtfulness in how you were going to achieve those metrics and goals. I guess I'd love for you to kind of walk through that just a little bit, and kind of really just for everybody else out there that's kind of in that same process where, hey, I'm looking at starting a business. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, how would you recommend that people go about doing that?
So I would say with a plan. So I do help smaller businesses. And well, first of all, entrepreneurs, you have to realize if you are thinking you're going to be your own boss when you own your own business, right? And that you won't have any bosses anymore. Yeah. Every client is your boss. Yeah. Right? So you have a whole bunch of bosses. I have a whole bunch of bosses. I used to just have one. Now I have everyone who's a client is my boss. So there's that. Now, kind of the process for getting started is I recommend doing a business plan. Right. You know, even if you don't have to turn it into a bank or anything, but just so you have some strategy behind it. And it's different. Some businesses who have a product is a little different than a service. Right. So with my service business, right, consulting is a service. So I'm really selling myself. So it's a different type of brand than here's a product that fixes so-and-so. Here's right. So the marketing was a little different. Okay. So maybe if you had an awesome product, you could move a little bit faster than someone who's doing a service that is a little harder for people to understand, you know, for clients, and it's a business to business. But I would definitely say come up with a plan, and then you have to go for it. There's a point where like, all right, I'm gonna really put 100% into this. And I had to say no more. You know, I had to walk into my boss's office at Parker Hannifin and say, hey, all the great stuff we've done together, I'm putting my 2 weeks. And he laughed. He's like, no, seriously. All right, what are we going to do?
You're
and
going to Colorado, man.
Yeah. And I remember my plant manager, so big boss lady of Parker Modesto, she wouldn't talk to me for my last week. It was so weird.
Wow.
Where I would walk by and I'm like, hi, Jennifer. And she was just disappointed and just turn her head, and she would never do that. So finally on my last day, I just walked by and said, I would just say hi. And for that week, she wouldn't say hi back. So she stopped me and she said, you know what? I'm sorry. I have been bitter that we're losing you, but I just want to say that I feel you're really brave, because it's something I thought about for years and I was never brave enough to do it, to take that leap. So I wish you all the best of luck. And, that's awesome. that means a lot, because maybe that was part of her plan to not talk to me or ignore me for a while. But I remember that. I'm like, brave? What do you mean brave? I'm like, I have to do this. It doesn't seem right. So part of it doesn't seem brave. I'm like, this is happening. I don't.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think you bring a good point, man. I think a lot of us, you know, just have that desire to I'm passionate about this, or I really have always wanted to look into doing my own thing over here in this space. And I agree. It is brave. I mean, I think it takes a huge leap of faith. And I think the fact that, you know, you and I have talked about this before, and that is, like I said, there was a strategic goal. There were metrics that you were going to hit. And I felt like probably for you, as it is for many people, I feel like you probably know when it's time, right? I mean, like when you find yourself more passionate about staying up to midnight because of you're working on the side gig, right? Like this thing you're trying to grow, than you do to your normal job. Even if you are progressing and being promoted, I think you kind of know that there's that certain spot where like, yeah, this is happening, and it may be painful at first, but yeah. So I think that's great. Again, I think that's phenomenally brave of the things that you did, and a lot of people out there probably echoing Jennifer's, kind of feelings about that. Like, yeah, I thought about doing that, I never did, but I do want to focus a little bit more onto your business as a whole. So you have, you and I were talking, before this, you've developed a really cool process using all of your experience from the past of really how to help businesses grow. And I do want to talk about your used soils framework. Can you walk us a little bit what that is and how it all came about?
Yeah.
I'll drink. I'll drink to that too. How's that?
Yeah. Have a drink. Sorry about that. Like I'll just, um, so how it came about was, it's a good story about growth, right? So my business, first 2 years, things are going great. Everything, I'm growing, developing, learning a lot. And then you hit, right? Since I'm a service type of business, right, I can only be so many places at once. And what a lot of clients were asking is, what is like a roadmap for operational excellence, or like, where do we start? And the answer was, it depends. We talk about that. And I'm like, oh, I don't like that answer. Well, it depends where you're at and what things you have, which there's truth to that. But I'm like, all right, if I can't clone myself, I could either hire a bunch of employees and train them, or I could develop a system. So I was trying to do two things at once: grow my business, but instead of just being strictly service, I wanted a product as well. Mm-hmm. So that way I could kind of standardize myself, clone myself, and just say, here's a roadmap for where to get started. If you want to start increasing profitability, you got to think of the people aspect and the process aspect. Yeah. So what I did, I wrote down the steps, and I spent a lot of time on it and moved the steps around and said, all right, what is something that I could show that this is if you follow these steps, you'll be successful. So when I wrote it down, I looked at all the letters, what it spelled, because I'm not one for acronyms. Like I don't like to force words into acronyms. So it happened to spell something. It spelled use soils. I'm like, oh, that's ugly. That's like, all right. So we'll just call it the 10-step, operational excellence program that you could implement, the business system. And then when I took it home to my better half, she's like, oh, use soils. That's cool. I'm like, that's not cool. We're talking about soils. Everyone thinks it's act. She's like, no, if you want to grow, you need to use soils. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, okay, I got it. So she convinced me. So I didn't even think of that.
Well done. Yeah.
So maybe I'm not as creative as I think, but so that became the roadmap.
That's awesome. Because I love the fact that the way that it's broken down is it really forces, I think, really two things. Like I said, it forces you to take really dedicated steps to uncovering, to then developing, to then sustaining. So like you're really uncovering root causes of problems, or root causes of where I want to go with this new product, this new marketing scheme, or whatever the case may be for a business. Okay, so you uncover it, and then you really develop it, right? I mean, you have setting goals, and you have cross-silo, cross-departmental communication, and then you really have that kind of steps as far as, we've done this, now how do we sustain it? How do we improve? And I think that the use soils framework, I thought was really, really awesome. And I guess that kind of leads me to the next question is, what do you feel like is the value that you bring? I mean, yes, okay, you're saving money. Yes, you are doing that. But what do you feel is like the true value that you're bringing to your clients?
Well, so for the use soils part, I wrote down all the common problems that I was solving, or things that I was seeing for the first 2 years going into small, medium, and large organizations. Yeah. So I started gathering data, and then I started looking up different data that was out there worldwide to see what are the common problems. I'm like, wow, even in Stanislaus County where I'm at, they're experiencing the same types of problems that other industries are, whether it's production or service, different types of sectors. So I started seeing the common themes. And so I wrote the plan that way. So I did want to add value that was relevant to real problems, and then have the roadmap on how to make sure you don't do those things. Okay. And then I think the way I add value is this gives a systems approach, a systems way of looking at things. Or maybe some consultants go in to solve one problem, like, hey, we want to come train us on communication because we have a conflict. But I go in there and I say, well, why is this happening? Let's look at the whole system. Why is that communication? And maybe training isn't the solution, even though someone's trying to hire me to do training, but maybe the root cause was not having visual management system. Okay. So I'm able to look at, right, that's the way to contact me is, they're seeing a symptom, but I like to sit and look at the root cause and then maybe redirect. Maybe that's not what we need. So I'll even say, you probably don't want to hire me right now. Like, this is not what you need, is this. So I'm brutally honest. And then I would say the second thing is that Yeah, I don't like hourly stuff because it's so short-term thinking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where if people knew how many hours I spent to solve their problems, like it would probably be more. I'm like, just tell me what the problem is, and I will get it. I'll dream about it. I'll think about it, and I'll find resources. So I do put a lot of pride into solving a problem, and if I don't think I can, I'll let them know up front. Hey, I'm not your person for this. So,
well, and I think I have to imagine that people appreciate that. I mean, if you're sitting across the desk from a CEO or an executive, operations man, whatever, the VP of operations and production, whatever, I have to imagine that they really enjoy that candor and just that, frankly, just the openness to saying, hey, look, I mean, this problem here, not really my expertise, not my thing, whatever. And I have to imagine that they really enjoy that because number one, you don't want to waste their time. They're busy. You don't want to waste your time either because you're busy, right? Like I said, I mean, you have how many different bosses now? It reminds me of that Office Space movie. I got 8 different bosses, Bob,
the TPS reports.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's awesome. So I guess, I feel like now, the consultants all over the place, right? I mean, everybody's a consultant. There's a 22-year-old life coach that hasn't even graduated college that's out there. I mean, how do you kind of find yourself separating yourself and really showing value in such frankly, a red market where there's so many consultants out there? I mean, what separates you from all the others? Is it just the roadmap, the systems, the use soils? I mean, what really separates you?
So I would say the results. And so it's hard up front, right? When you're starting a business, just like coming straight out of college and you have no work experience, they're like, yeah, I need to get hired because I want experience. So it's hard to get word of mouth when you have no experience or there's no mouths to give words of mouth to. So very much into results. Right. So when I look at different companies, like here's the results that we got. And then the method, I don't really sell that or the roadmap up front. So with use soils, that was I would test that out and not let anyone know about use soils. So I didn't brand it at first. I was following those steps myself, like, wow, this is working. This is working for large organizations, working for small organizations. So I just think my upfront honesty, and I'm not saying consultants are dishonest, but I think sometimes they're looking for like short term, like, oh, we could get a lot on this if we tell them this, and this is wrong. Where I made the decision to stay more local to start, where I'm like, people are going to talk. Like, this is my community. I live in California. I want to just get a good reputation. So getting results for sure, I think, is definitely what separates me.
Awesome. That's great. Well, that's awesome. It's been, I know I've taken up a lot of your time already. I do appreciate it so much. I guess just to kind of close things out, I do want to give an opportunity just to kind of, I mean, what's the best way to get in touch with you? I mean, whether you're a small business, large business, I mean, who do you prefer to work with? And then how do people get in touch with you to learn more about you, soils, about you and your company, and really how to engage you in the future?
Oh, awesome. Yeah. To get a hold of me, I'd say send me an email at gary@bcilean.com. I like working with small, medium, large size businesses, and usually the small businesses, I just help pro bono just because that's where my heart is.
That's awesome.
Sorry, if you work for a large organization, I'm going to charge you.
You got to pay.
And medium, I won't charge you as much, but it's case by case. So if we think we could help and there's some things that are already created or a roadmap, I share it. I believe in, right, things come back in return. So things that I've already worked on and completed that are mine, I'll send it. Here's you want the use soils roadmap? Here it is. You want a template? Here it is. I'm very easy to talk to. And if you need things, just, send me an email and I'll get you what you need to the best of my ability.
Awesome. That's great. Well, hey, we'll definitely put number one, your website, your email down in the description here. And Gary, thanks so much for taking the time today just to walk us through how it ain't easy, but it's worth it. Gary, thank you so much for all that you do, and look forward to talking soon, bud.
All right. Thanks, Dustin.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you. Bye.